Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Rushcliffe series. This is the southernmost district in Nottinghamshire and it contains 59 civil parishes of England. And there's some corkers down here. Let's dive in and check one out. Welcome back to Rushcliffe again, everybody, and to a parish which the long-time viewers out there will already know their way around, because I made a video showing you the route I planned around this one as part of my behind the scenes series, so you should all know where I'm about to go. Welcome to the parish of Willoughby on the Wolds. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Willoughby on the Wolds, Willow Tree Village on high ground. Rushcliffe this week brings us to a village in which you might already have a sense of familiarity. Welcome to Willoughby on the Wolds, a small village on the Nottinghamshire-Leicestershire border, heavily associated with the Romans. The connection comes in the form of a small town, which was built close to the A46 or the Fosse Way, which was known as Vernemetum. In 1648, the Battle of Willoughby Field during the English Civil War was also fought close by. The modern village's origins go back to the Domesday Book. It had at least 13 landowners at one time, 12 of whom still had holdings here as late as the 19th century. Still full of rural charm and character, Willoughby has a strong community with plenty of features for us to get stuck into. These include a small primary school, a well-equipped community park and a thriving village hall, as well as an ancient church dedicated to St Mary and All Saints. If you drive through or near the village during the day, you will almost certainly see horse riders. Owing to the fact that so many of the fields around Willoughby are open pastureland, in the winter months the area becomes part of the corn hunt. And remember, I used Willoughby to explain how I make my route plans, so let's see if I followed what I showed you to the letter. We start our journey around Willoughby, a name which literally means Willow Tree Village, on West Thorp, the long straight road that flanks the western edge of the place. Most of Willoughby's amenities are located around a central crossroads, so West Thorp is wholly residential, barring a couple of farm buildings here and there. I found this area to have some of the nicest looking properties though, ones that ooze that Nottinghamshire charm we've come to know and love. Willoughby also lies close to Leicestershire, so this might be a sign of things to come over the border in future episodes. On Main Street now, I encountered a piece of poetry on the roadside, which suggests some of the things we should encourage our children to do. One of them was to hear the sunrise and the nightfall. I'm not totally sure how that's possible, but it's an interesting concept nonetheless. In any event, we now find ourselves descending a shallow hill into a valley. This takes us past several cul-de-sacs and more tall brick buildings as the road dips down towards a stream. It's not long before that stream makes an appearance in the valley bottom. This has no name as far as I'm aware, but the locals know it as the brook. Just after that watercourse are the allotments. I would ask the fans to make themselves known in the comments. I went to the trouble of filming these after all. Now, as we approach the village centre, our first real landmark is about to come into view, and that would be the excellent Willoughby Primary School. In the 1860s, interest developed in education out here. This school was built in 1863 and cost £305. Though extended recently, its original 4 walls remain, housing the 2 main classrooms. In one of them is a painted board on the wall showing its benefactors' names. The old schoolhouse is just a bit further up the road. It seems the community at that time was close-knit. Local families were mixed and bonded together by marriages. This pattern of rural life continued through the 19th century, though the population did decline in the second half, as arable land was converted to pasture. I'd hope the modern-day population all see my card on this notice board, which fell off initially, but don't worry, I did manage to get it to stay eventually. Now the road is starting to climb a gentle hill again towards the crossroads. On the way, I spotted a notable house. So even if you watched my route plan video of this village, you'll know yourself we've already seen a few things that we didn't see while we were planning the actual way around this. And this here is another example. This house is an old post office. It's called the Old Post House, and the sign there next to its door has got an old post box on it. So that is where the post office used to be once upon a time. There's another building close to this too, which also wasn't seen in that route plan video, and it's an old pub. Let's go and check that out. This is the old Bull's Head pub, which is now a house. Willoughby used to have 3 pubs. These were a coaching inn called the Plough, which stopped trading in 1864, the 3 Horseshoes, now demolished, and this, visited in 1722 by William Stukeley, famous for his archaeological work on Stonehenge. There's no pub in the village these days. Next, we go around the corner to the old bakehouse on Chapel Lane, a lasting indication of past times. Chapel Lane is also a clue. I couldn't determine which one of the 3 chapels once stood here, but it was close to where this house is now. Willoughby's 3 chapels were Baptist, built in 1864, Primitive Methodist, built in 1871, and Wesleyan, built in 1891. Using a short path from Chapel Lane, we've arrived at an old forge. This is on London Lane, which connects Main Street to Back Lane, effectively the village's southern bypass. The main landmark here is the village hall, which I couldn't capture properly because there were children outside in its yard, presumably the local playgroup. Mind you, it was good to see that it's well used. The hall was built in 1932 and was extended in 1986. The older part was then rebuilt in 1998. And in much the same way as the village hall, which clearly didn't go to plan there because there were children outside, this footpath which we're now on was also part of the plan, but things seem to have changed here too. If you look here, and we're looking back towards the village hall, you can see like a construction site and a fence. Now this is still a public right of way because there are way markers here. I've got every right to be here, and it's still marked on my map as a public right of way. But there's a fence that's been put across it here, which I've had to climb through. There is a gate at the end, so you can still get access to the path, but I can't get through it. Even though it's unlocked, it's stiff, and I can't move the bolt. So I've had to come through the fence to get to this point here, but we are still legally able to be here, which is a good thing. Now this is a junction, and you might remember from the route plan video, this is where we said we'll go this way up to the main street again if we can't go this way, because there looked to be a path that ran to the bowls club, which you can see there, and there isn't. You can see it's all fenced off, so there is no right of way across there to the bowls club, so we're not going to attempt that. We'll talk a bit about the bowls club from here though, because it's obviously clearly in shot, and then we'll head down that other path back towards the main road. Willoughby on the Wolds Bowls Club is proud of its near 100-year history. In fact, currently its members are busy planning for its centenary celebrations in 2025. You can access the Bowls Club off Main Street, not via these rights of way as I thought may have been the case. This does lead to the road, however. In doing so, it passes the rear of this paddock, which likely belongs to one of the houses nearby. I'm not totally sure of which one though. It then crosses a small wooded glade before emerging here. These houses are built on the site of the former 3 Horseshoes pub. Now back on Main Street, it's time to head west again. This is another residential area, but there are a few things around here that point to some other aspects of Willoughby's past. Until the 1820s, there was an ancient cross which stood near the central crossroads. It no longer stands, it was destroyed, likely to improve road access. Now, Cross Hill, a street close to the crossroads, is the only indication that it ever existed. It was made of stone and stood 5 yards high. The crossroads still exists though, and here we are. This has the phone box, which houses the local defib machine. It's Widmerpool Lane next as we head north towards the playing fields. In Roman times, there was a station nearby. It was located on the Fosse Way, which we know now as the A46. Its name was Vernemetum, and it lives on thanks to this sign just inside the park, created in 2011. Next to it is an information board which tells us all sorts. This mentions the Battle of Willoughby Field, a bloody conflict which took place in 1648 during the English Civil War. More on that in a bit. The board also tells us about this park. Although it looks pretty mundane, this has some hidden secrets. As you walk through it, you may notice the ground is very uneven. These are earthworks. Back in the 1600s, this was the site of Willoughby Manor House. It was shown on maps dating from 1604, but by 1616, its owners had sold off the estate it belonged to. According to that board, this was done to cover debts incurred by the building of Woollerton Hall in Nottingham. One can only imagine how different this would have once looked. In any event, we can follow a path around the edge of the field, and this brings us out on the narrow Church Lane. Let's make our way to St Mary and All Saints. This church, with its broad, tall spire, was dedicated in 1179 and stands just north of the school. Inside are ancient effigies of the Willoughby family, who were lords of the manor back in the 13th century. They were descendants of Nottingham merchant Ralph Bugg, who bought a local windmill in 1233 and later acquired more and more of Willoughby's land. The church is also the resting place of Colonel Michael Stanhope, a 24-year-old royalist who was killed in the Battle of Willoughby Field. He was considered by many to be among the most chivalrous and daring in the royalist forces. And I've just tried the door to see if it's open, but it's locked. Even so, though, I've just seen this in the porch. This porch was built in 1908 to the glory of God and as a memorial to the Reverend John Henry Killick, who was vicar of the neighbouring parish of Prestwold and Houghton from 1870 to 1885. There we go. Okay, and from here it's a simple task to get back to the car. We just have to follow a public right of way which comes out of the churchyard, goes over a couple of fields and ends up back at the parking space which we began at. And that's been a nice walk around Willoughby on the Wolds, and I do hope you've enjoyed it. Making my way over these fields, I opted for a silent walk in much the same way as I've done elsewhere. Enjoy these few seconds of rural tranquility as we head back to the start. And that's going to do us for Willoughby on the Wolds. Next week we're off to a place that also begins with the letter W, and so do many Rushcliffe villages. Once there, we'll be learning about a Paralympian, a rugby club and a railway station. Most of it sits in a heavily wooded part of the district. See you down the road. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.